I sold this Nintendo Switch on eBay, however, the person who bought it returned it. This is my first customer return and I feel embarrassed. This is what the customer said on the return. Firstly, the dock constantly disconnects. We have tried different docks, TVs, HDMI cables, and charging cables. So that's issue number one. Issue number two is that the controllers that they bought only work on the Switch in handheld mode, not docked. I've tried on my other Switch and they work wirelessly just fine. Is there anything you can do? Before I sell any devices on eBay, I make sure I thoroughly test them by putting them in a dock, testing the Joy-Cons on the device, off the device, testing the game cartridge, the Wi-Fi, playing a game, pretty much everything. So in my response, I said, hey bud, sorry to hear you're having issues. I was using the Switch for a while before selling it and it didn't seem to have any issues. I tested on the dock with Joy-Cons and with games, etc. and had no problems. I know that I packaged the items well with lots of bubble wrap, so doubt it's been damaged in transit either. Are you sure that it hasn't taken any drops or anything since you've had it? Like I said, it seemed to be working fine before it left. They replied saying, hello, I've kept the Switch in a protective case and it hasn't been drop damaged in any way. I'm just not sure what's wrong with it. It works fine in handheld mode. It's just a dock and wireless Joy-Con connection I'm having troubles with. Is it possible I can return the device? In which case I said, yeah, of course, send it back to me. I'll have a look at it and you can have your refund. I've tested the Nintendo Switch vigorously on the docking station and I can confirm, you'll be able to see in the video that I show now, it does actually just disconnect. The customer was telling the truth for this part. It definitely doesn't work properly on the docking station. However, the issue with the Joy-Cons not working when they're wireless, I can't replicate that issue. And I've tried with these Joy-Cons and another set of Joy-Cons that I have. And they also work in the docking station. So here, both the Joy-Cons are paired. As you can see, it works flawlessly. I have played this game here, Immortals Phoenix Rising, and I can't replicate the issue with the Joy-Cons. So let's power down the Nintendo Switch. And now we're gonna take it apart and we're gonna see what's going on. This video is proudly sponsored by PCBWay.com. Creating your own PCB could not be simpler. However, you can also make it as advanced as you want it to be. Enter the dimensions of the board, how many boards you actually like, finally adjust the layers and the thickness, and you're good to go. The next page is where you can go more in depth if you'd like. For example, you could have a yellow PCB. Can you imagine? PCBWay also have a shared projects page. Here you can follow your favorite creator, like their post, use their creations, and even comment on the project. Use the link in the description for a $5 welcome bonus. I am hoping that after all this time that I did apply the correct amount of thermal paste, otherwise I will be upset and I would have let Steve from Tronics Fix down. Gotta tell you what, the thermal pasta here is actually looking all right, nice and strong. You know what, looking at this board overall, I don't even remember what was wrong with it when I sold it, which is clearly good because it means that I've done somewhat of an okay job regardless of what it is. Let's take it under the scope and see what's going on. I'm just looking at M92 and that doesn't seem to have changed, so I don't think it was an M92 issue before. I don't know, maybe the solder, does that solder look factory? I don't know. There does seem to be a lot of bits on the board. Maybe that is just flux. I don't know if that's dust or flux. I see a tiny bit of flux here on the corners, here and here, so maybe it was an M92 change. I'm just having a quick inspection of the board. I don't think it was a port swap looking at it. That kind of also looks factory. Yeah, it looks factory. It definitely doesn't look like my solder. This looks really good. Just checking inside the port to make sure that that's okay, because that could be a reason as to why it's flickering on the docking station. My guess is that it's something to do with P13 USB, which is this rectangular long chip here. Either this chip or the actual filters themselves. I'm going to start with the filters and I will check the caps as well, which are around the filters. And I just want to make sure that we have continuity vertically across this point and this point on all of the filters. I'll put the meter into continuity mode, which is the mode that beeps when we get a complete circuit. Hear that beep? That's what we need across all of them. Can you hear how this one is beeping and then not beeping? So I'm not moving my probes. I feel like this filter is iffy. And this filter. Wow, could it be these last two? That one holds a continuous beep. So I'm going to try and explain as best I can here. On these three filters here, I get 2 ohms worth of resistance in continuity mode. I think that's the correct terminology. I could be wrong. It says 2 ohms on the multimeter, so that's what I'm going with. On this line, 2 ohms and etc, etc. On this filter here, it starts at 2 ohms, but then it climbs to 7, then it goes past 50 ohms. Now my meter will beep when it's below 50 ohms. This one is fine, but it just seems to be on this side. We also get the same for this side and this one being fine. So 2 ohms, 2 ohms, 2 ohms, 2 ohms and then over 50, back to 2, over 50, and the same with this one. 2 ohms back to 50, 2 ohms back to 50. We're gonna use our soldering hot air station and we're gonna put it to 440 degrees Celsius with an airflow speed of 80%. to remove these little components. And then I've got a donor board and we're going to put some new ones on, but we're going to want to prep the board first before we put them on. Fume extractor on. Airspeed now down to 20%, and we're going to put the component on. Or not. That right there happened because the solder wasn't wet. So we're going to wait for the solder to wet this time before putting it down. Like now. Can you get the other one? There we go. We're going to add some flux. We're just going to reflow them into place. A bit higher airflow speed now, I'm going to put up to 40. There we go. Lovely. Clean now with IPA and a toothbrush. And then just go over it with a cotton bud. Make sure we get as much flux as possible. We don't want that to be on the board. No harm in it, but it's just not nice. It's all sticky. Now to test again with the multimeter in continuity mode, just to make sure we're all good. Those readings seem to be a lot more stable. We're getting 1.5 ohms steady on both of these with no interruptions. I'll hold it down in the same place that it was interrupting before, and I'll speed up the process to see if you can hear if it turns off. Ready? No interruptions at all. Just checking over these ones again. I did knock this cap out of place a little bit, but I think we're all good on it. I can't put it back halfway done because I need to test the game. And for that, I would like the heatsink and everything put back as normal. The Joy-Cons, etc. I need to put everything back together. If we get the same issue, I'm probably going to end up changing the P13 or the Pi 1-3 USB chip, which is that long rectangular one that you can see just about here. But the ohms situation seems to be sorted on these filters. So let's give it a test. After putting the Nintendo Switch back together as much as I needed to, you can clearly see on the screen that it did not work. So we go back to the drawing board. Now we're back under the microscope looking at the board, and what I'm going to do is just test this cap here in continuity mode to see if we have a short. And we don't, which would suggest that P13 USB is okay. However, I'm going to change out P13 USB and then test the device again to see if at least then we get an image on the dock. Because at the moment we get nothing, which is worse than what it was. Check the filters, make sure they're still okay. Yeah, they are. These two filters that I changed are fine. So let's go ahead and remove P13 USB. We're going to do 440 degrees Celsius with an airflow speed of 80% to get the chip off. Now we're going to grab another chip. Now fan's going on, and we're going to get some flux on the board. God, we're shaky today, man. Some flux on. Come in again. We get a jump into place. Surface tension do its job. Yeah, that was pretty good to me. Going to push down on it and give it some more heat. Needs to go up a bit. Perfect. Okay, now we wait. And now a nice little clean with some IPA and a toothbrush. Testing with the multimeter to make sure that we definitely don't have a short, which we don't. That's good. That's meant to be ground this side, and that is not shorted. Let's test. I'm not putting it all the way back together this time. I only need to make sure that it works in the dock, and then I'll put it back together and give it a full test. I've got my half put together mangled switch. I'm just going to test it in the docking station to see if we get anything on the screen. I've hooked up my my mobile phone, so we should be able to see. Put it in now. It's in the dock. Do we get anything that shows on the screen? Yes, we do. Let's go, baby. Okay, let's put the switch back together. put a thermal pasta on everything, and then I'm going to play some games on it and test it and make sure that problem's gone. Hopefully, touch wood, let's go. I ended up playing around about 20 minutes worth of gameplay and didn't experience one time where it went to a black screen. The previous black screen actually happened to me on the main menu and would occur roughly every 5 seconds or so worth of gameplay. This, for me, was a massive success. And there we have it. The Nintendo Switch now works perfectly fine, and all because of this little P13 chip that we have here. Arguably, I could have changed out the P13 chip when I changed the filters at the start, and that's definitely a lesson I'll take away from this. Nonetheless, the customer was 100% right that the item was faulty, and I feel a little bit embarrassed that I didn't test it on the dock for longer. That is something that I now need to make sure that I do when I go on to sell Nintendo Switch consoles. If you enjoyed watching this type of content, I will leave a video here, which will be something similar to me fixing a Nintendo Switch. If you enjoyed it, hit the thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel if you're new around here, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.